these different long-winded multisyllabic words, and you come to the same conclusion. The world does not work like a clock that is wound, according to the simplistic rules that men attempt to use to approximate each other's behavior. The world works on something different, and that something different has been taught to us by God. And that something different we call love, we call understanding, we call faith, we call taqwa, we call sabr, we call niyyah. So all different words that are pointing to the same cosmic energy that drives the entire world. You see, when a 5-year-old says please to 60 people, strong men, to move 10,000 pounds, he has said in his own way, be. And they have done something just from his words. This is a small metaphor and an example. The power of God to create, God says be, and it is. And we don't understand all of why or how or the physics or the economics or the rationality, but these are all underlying mechanisms that flow from the infinite source of all power, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us how this world works, how it was created, what rules really govern its functioning, how we should relate to Him and how we should relate to each other. All we have to do is to grab the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to be more human and less animal. And we will begin on a path that puts us above the angels in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's affection. For this was His promise to us. But instead, we decide, astaghfirullah, some of us, that we are better than God, that we know more than God, that we would take rights for ourselves that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not take for Himself. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had willed it, everyone in this masjid, including this speaker, would be dead in a second. Everyone who does not say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah would not rise by morning. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed a tsunami, a flood, an earthquake, a volcano, none of us could stop it even for 2 seconds. But if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not force people to accept His sovereignty when He created us and has the power to do so, who is man? Any man, Muslim, non-Muslim, Christian, US, Australian, French, Canadian, doesn't matter. Who is any man to take for himself the right which God will not take for Himself? Who is any man? Who is any man to declare himself God? Who is any man to declare for himself rights which God does not give to man? Who? And this is the thing that we don't understand. We take our energies and we push them into these useless acts. We push them into these useless speeches. We push them into useless things. Because what we don't understand is all we need to do is educate ourselves to work with each other, to listen to each other, to understand each other. The greatest leadership that any Muslim can provide is to teach every Muslim that they are a leader. Because when that happens, they will immediately seek each other as ants seek each other to build a hill. And nothing will stop the committed force of a group of people who wish to work together to make the world different. Nothing ever has. It's the only thing that's ever really changed the world in a lasting and permanent way. So my reaction to Bales, to Marah, and to some extent to Zimmerman is one of infinite sorrow. Infinite sorrow that a man would be handed something worth more than $1 trillion, which is his brain and his heart. And he would shut off his brain and shut off his heart, which were given to him by the hand of God in order that he might bark like a dog and act like an animal. Truly, mankind is lost when he departs from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Islam was nearing, when it was obvious that Islam would be triumphant towards the end of the Prophet's life, his last expedition was in a place called Tabuk. And so there was a call. Tabuk was far. So there was a call for the Muslim community to support this expedition of Tabuk. So there were many Muslims by now. It was not a small group of people. There was a large ummah. There had been great success. So people were coming forward and giving their donations for this upcoming struggle. And Abu Bakr Siddiq, after Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the finest Muslim and the finest human being, came amassed wealth to the common pot. Just gave an extraordinary amount to the cause of tabligh. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam looked at his friend. He knew that this was a great amount of money. And he said, Ya Abu Bakr, what did you leave for your wife, yourself, and your family? And Abu Bakr Siddiq looked at Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he said, Allah and His Messenger. A man sits in a cave with his best friend, has his life threatened, had himself choked by Abu Jahl when they put a cloak around Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, beaten senseless, had his business mocked, his life threatened, his family threatened, every single aspect of his life thrown upside down simply for believing in what was right. He's successful. He's given everything. Everything he's had. Years have passed. There are now thousands of followers. It's okay. Everything is easy now. You know? It's not just him and his best friend anymore. There are thousands of people. He could have said, let it ride. You know what? I've done enough. I've already been promised paradise by Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. People have already said, if you took the weight of the entire Ummah's faith from now to Judgment Day and you took the weight of Abu Bakr's faith, Abu Bakr would tip the scale every year. After all of these hundreds of struggles and thousands of indignities, after all the loss of health and wealth, after all of this suffering, there's one more time, one more expedition, one more go. And out of thousands and thousands of people who had given much less, who had suffered much less, who had much more to fear, the one who puts everything that he has again for the last ride is Abu Bakr Siddiq. You see, why do people do that? This is leadership. This is saying to people that every day is the first day of the rest of your life. That every day there is an opportunity to defend the deen. Every day there is an opportunity to set an example for other people that will live long after you are dead and gone. This is the most important thing in life. And this is why Abu Bakr was not a fool but a very wise man when he said the most important thing and the only thing that really mattered for the defense of his family was that he left them Allah and he left them His Messenger. Subhanallah. After that day, Umar bin Khattab is reported to have said, it is impossible to exceed what is in Abu Bakr Siddiq's heart. This is leadership. It is to understand the thing unseen. Later when he became the Khalifa, people revolted against the poor tax. They came to him, they said, yeah, Abu Bakr, we don't need to pay this anymore. The Prophet is dead. Come on, man. And in what has protected our sunnah from that day to this, Abu Bakr Siddiq said he would rather die than allow the poor to be mistreated according to the rules and teachings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They couldn't fight for him. They couldn't give him any votes. Didn't have any money. They couldn't even pay for their own arms. But the principle, the thing unseen, the thing that made all of society work, was more important to him than what you could see, which is a bunch of powerful people trying to get a man to sell out. Is leadership, energy, devotion, understanding. We are Muslims today because of decisions made by people 1400 years ago. What decisions will we make today that will protect this deen 1400 years from now? Ya Allah, please guide us. Amen. Ya Allah, have mercy on our